Hi, I'm Nick from the Grokit team, and in today's video we are going over an introduction to the CAGED guitar system and how wonderfully freeing it can be to fully visualize your guitar all over the neck. In this first video of the series, we will be going over the introduction to the CAGED system. Firstly, let's go over a brief outline of what the CAGED system actually is. In short, CAGED is a guitar system that combines chords, scales, and arpeggios, all in the same area of the fretboard, like a nice, tidy, complete package. When we speak about CAGED, what we're really talking about is the C shape, the A shape, the G shape, the E shape, and lastly the D shape. All of these shapes make their respective major chords within the first 4 frets of the fretboard, or commonly known as the open position. We also refer to them as shapes later on. This is useful so that you can differentiate different bar chords. So, for example, a C-shape E chord. But we will go deeper into that subject in another video along the series. Speaking of future videos, a lot of you aren't subscribed right now. Rectify that immediately and get the latest news on guitar and music theory straight to your feed. Slap that like button, and with that out of the way, let's continue with the rest of the video. All of those chords that we've just talked about spell out the word CAGED, so that's where it comes from. The system part is how we use this information to relieve what I call fretboard fog, where basically you're looking at the fretboard but you can't really see where to go next because of the options aren't clear to you. The CAGED system helps alleviate this problem. The way that the CAGED system helps alleviate this problem is that it combines the 3 important aspects of music, which are chords, scales, and arpeggios, all in the same place. I hope that gives you a brief summary of why it's called CAGED and what it is. In later videos we'll go into a lot more of the mechanics and how to learn it. For now though, we'll cover some common misconceptions heard about the CAGED system. So in at number 1, CAGED is more like being trapped in a cage. Am I right, guys? If you have heard this come up when talking about CAGED, usually the person who says that doesn't know what they're talking about when it comes to the CAGED system. It's that simple. CAGED has done a lot of things to take someone from a mediocre standard to a better place than they were before. It also has helped lots of advanced players become professional musicians. It's stuff that's taught in like guitar universities and colleges like Berkeley and all of these other places. It's always something that's used as a resource to take you from somewhere where you weren't as good because you didn't have the knowledge available to somewhere where you could be competent. Also, something to look out for when someone says this sort of line of thinking is, especially on YouTube, a lot of people butcher the CAGED system and then sell you a course to try and teach you CAGED badly. I've seen it many, many times. I'm not going to name any names, but it does happen a lot. So with this series, I'm going to clarify and demystify all of the CAGED stuff and bring it to you in a way that you can understand. On to the next common complaint at number 2. The CAGED system will hurt my creativity. If you've heard this, it's also not true. The reason being is that I've found that knowing is half the battle. When you deepen your vocabulary or knowledge, knowing that is fine, but you also need to apply the applicable part, and CAGED helps with that. The CAGED system has helped me and many other students that I've taught get from a basic level to an intermediate or advanced level. It's helped them overcome that fretboard fog by linking everything together in a unified fashion, which a lot of other systems don't do. Namely, like 3 notes per string, you go through chords. If you do 4 notes per string, you don't care about the chords at all. You're just trying to get to the highest point in the fretboard as quickly as possible. There are other methods that are more successful than CAGED, but for now we'll focus on CAGED. And when someone says that it hurts their creativity, it's just a lack of understanding of what CAGED actually is. Because if you learn about CAGED and you learn how to connect them all together, then you've got more options available to you, which allows you to become more creative. And finally, the third common misconception. It only works with major chords or major related things, which is another mistruth. This is false because you can get the major CAGED chords and you can dive into them and work out where the root thirds and fifths are, which makes your major, and then just flatten the third. Then you've got all your minors. You can do this a lot more further on with other chords as well, once you understand where everything is in relation to that major chord set of CAGED. For example, here is a C chord. Now, I mark out where the C is, the E is, and the G is. All I need to do is flatten the E to E flat, and I get C minor. The idea of the CAGED system is to base it as a framework to help you move around. Now, obviously, when you get to higher and higher levels, it starts to break down a bit, but it's perfectly reasonable to use that as a beginner to an intermediate to get you to a better place of understanding. Because I would argue having a framework to work from is better than not having a framework at all. I might do a video in the future going over more common complaints about the CAGED system and just, relaying truths over the top. But that's beyond the scope of this one, and I just thought I'd put the 3 most common ones in this video. So lastly, we should discuss what you should expect from learning the CAGED system, and if it's right for you. Let's firstly discuss when you should learn the CAGED system, or what appropriate skill level should you try it. So, you've been learning guitar for a year or so, strumming away, learning a few basic chords, having fun, but then you look at the rest of the fretboard and it looks confusing, alien, and feels unknowable to you. But you aren't scared. No. You're feeling curious, and you want to venture further into the land of guitar. Yep, that's it. That's when you should be looking into the CAGED system as the next step. This is when usually the CAGED system is taught when it's trying to take a beginner to an intermediate stage and beyond. Me personally, I see CAGED as the vehicle to take someone from that point to the next point, and so should you. Now, one disclaimer I would say is that CAGED isn't without its flaws. Like every system, it has its flaws. But like I said earlier, these flaws are only apparent when you've been working with it for many, many years, or you want to take your playing to another level past that. But I wouldn't worry about that because most of you coming to this series in CAGED are looking to learn the basics. I would also encourage you to check out as many systems as possible. More knowledge is always better. We will also go into those systems on this channel. Me personally, I just find that the CAGED system is more comprehensive than most others. As I find it, it's more musically complete. I hope this video has given you a brief insight into what CAGED is and how you should approach it. In the next video in this series, we'll be going into how to learn CAGED. If I were you, which I'm not, you should definitely click the like and subscribe button. It doesn't cost you anything, and you get free content from us at Grokit. We cover advice on guitar and music theory. Anyway, thanks for watching. See you in the next video.